Our first speaker of the day is somebody that's been with the IBT. First of all, worked in the oil field, worked for 16 years and was a shop steward, became a business agent, and done like the rest of us, gone us through the ranks. In 1989, he was vice president of Local 175 in South Charleston, West Virginia, was elected president of the local union in 1992, became a member of the General Executive Board about the same time as I did, is a negotiator for 250,000 workers at UPS, and over and above all the things that he has accomplished, he's a trade unionist from the bottom of his heart. His job and his responsibility always taking the member first and never forget where he came from. It's been an honor and a pleasure for all those years that we've worked together, closely and sometimes in some good times and bad times, some have heavy water at times, sometimes it was very quiet, but always together and always have it, he always has it the same at the end of the day. Toujours la même conviction.
Always the same conviction is his, to work for the better of our members and for our organization to make sure that this social class is maintained, whether it be here or in the United States. The middle class has to remain and has to thrive.
The International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Brother Ken All.
First of all, I bring greetings from General President Hoffa and all your brothers and sisters in the United States. And I also want to thank my good friend Bob Bouvier for inviting me up here, and I also want to recognize my colleagues on the General Executive Board, Stan Hennessy and Craig McGinnis. And I want to pay my respects also to former members of the GEB, Tom Frazier and Don McGill, and also to the members of Teamsters Canada Executive Board. Over the span of the Hoffa administration, your Canadian leaders has established and guaranteed the sovereignty of Teamsters Canada within our great international union. And they've grown the membership, even in these difficult economic times. And they've proven themselves to be trusted and reliable advisors to both the General President and myself. Be certain of one thing. When the leaders of Teamster Canada speak, everyone in our union listens. And so, in keeping with the theme of this convention, times are changing, so are we. We must honestly look at where we came from to clearly see where we're heading. And if you bear with me for a few minutes, I think it's particularly appropriate to do that in this beautiful city of Quebec. Some would say that the labor movement, like Quebec, established itself in hostile territory and surrounded itself with a wall to fend off its enemies. And that worked for a while, about 150 years for Quebec, but considerably less time for the labor movement. During the 1950s and 60s, we negotiated collective bargaining agreements that brought our members into the middle class, provided health care and pensions that protected our workers during the years of their employment, and provided for their comfortable retirement. We not only fought for our members, but we supported progressive laws that spread those benefits to all other workers. And we thought our efforts were being appreciated and that employers would recognize us as partners, committed to promoting the economy and steadily improving our members' lives. And then one day we woke up and we were surrounded by our enemies. The wolf was suddenly at the door. As unexpectedly as General Wolfe and his army appearing on the plains of Abraham. Employers changed the game on us. Corporate labor relations people that we had dealt with for years were suddenly replaced with kids with MBAs who didn't have a clue how to run the business and placed no value on having loyal workers who were fairly treated and fairly compensated. Instead, these newly minted capitalists thought they knew everything about making profit by shedding employees and shedding their benefits. And it's taken us years to act and recover. The walls we had built with our collective bargaining agreements did not protect us, any more than the Great Wall of Quebec protected General Montcalm. The times are changing. Yes, indeed they are. And we have to change. Indeed, some may say that the times have changed and we have to catch up. In the United States, despite having a labor-friendly president, we've been besieged by attacks from corporations and their right-wing political nutcakes. I'm sure you've all followed the war on workers that has been launched against trade unions, public employees, women, and yes, even the elderly. It's the old divide and conquer. Public employees are pitted against private sector workers. Young workers have been pitted against retirees. The recently arrived immigrant competing with people whose own ancestors arrived only a generation earlier. The corporate-sponsored media has characterized anyone still having a defined pension plan or a company-provided health care insurance as part of some selfish special interest. Somehow, they've brainwashed non-union workers so that when they look at the benefits that union employees receive, they ask the question, why do these union workers still have those benefits? Instead of asking, why doesn't my employer give me a pension and health coverage? And if the union workers are public employees, the question is, why are my taxes paying for them to have benefits that I don't? You know, as our numbers have decreased, we became so isolated that our cries for justice have been heard only by ourselves. Right now, Canada's union density stands at almost 29% and around 70% of the broader public sector. That sounds pretty good to someone from the USA, where private sector union density is around 7%. So we have no choice but to change if we're going to leave our children and grandchildren with organizations to protect their welfare in the future. And we know that big business isn't any different up here. They want unions weak, so there's nobody standing in their way. You have politicians like your Prime Minister that are doing a lot of the same things that U.S. President Bush did. Cutting corporate tax rates, pushing job-killing trade bills, trying to make life hard for unions, and promoting right-to-work legislation. If right-to-work passes in Canada, you can expect the same results that we've seen in the 24 states in the U.S. where it has passed. Those states have lower wages and benefits than the free bargaining states. Those states spend much less on public education and medical facilities because they have a much lower tax base. Those states have higher poverty rates and much higher rates of death on the job. The goal of right to work is to weaken unions and undermine basic rights at work. And it's not just the right to work laws that you're facing, but also Bill C-377. This bill would force every union, every local, every labor council and federation to file intrusive financial reports that would be posted for the public. And let me be clear, we have no reluctance to share information with our members. We hold and manage their money for their benefit, but there's no legitimate reason to share that information with employers and the general public. It's not as if this legislation is going to require companies to publicly post the earnings of their multi-million-dollar CEOs or the amount of the money that they spend jet-setting around the world at the corporation's expense. If the U.S. is any indication, these anti-union bills are just a starting point. The Teamsters Union has taken the lead in the fight against those that seek to erase the economic security of our members. And we've had to learn two lessons. First, We had to tear down the walls that for too many years separated us from groups who share our general philosophy of collective action to promote the common good, and we had to change the ways we approach younger workers and the others who have struggled in the new economy but have not looked to unions as a source of help. We've taken advantage of social media to communicate our message ourselves because we can't depend on newspapers and other media to take our side or even to tell our story. We've joined international labor federations and now work closely with other unions on a global scale, something that's necessary to fight global corporations. Our associations with unions in the United Kingdom has helped us to organize 30,000 school bus drivers, many of whom work for companies who are headquartered in the UK. We've teamed with environmental groups fighting for clean air at American ports, and they in turn have supported our efforts to organize port workers. And just like Canada, we face an aging membership where new members are ethnically diverse and multilingual. Our organizing strategies reflect that as many of you saw at the Unity Conference, where Hispanic and Somalian organizers spoke about their victories. And your victory, organizing immigrant taxi drivers in Calgary, has inspired locals in Seattle to enter into an association with drivers in that city. We also share the challenge of educating the youth about the important roles unions play in society. Many of our young are frustrated by unemployment, but also view unions negatively. They don't have an appreciation for the roles that unions played in the fight for equal pay for women, civil rights, and job safety. But as we've seen in the Occupy Wall Street movement, the energy that they possess, and while they don't realize it, we're part of that same struggle. Their tactics are tactics that were pioneered by our mothers and our grandfathers. We have to reach out to people we have too long ignored. Speak to people we have too often shouted at in anger, because we need each other for all of us to succeed. And so I look forward to the discussions that will take place over the next few days, and I'm certain that I will leave here with new ideas that I will share with our General Executive Board as well as other local unions. And I want to commend my friend Bob for having the courage and the foresight to tackle these difficult issues and encourage you to participate and share your views with the speakers that we'll be hearing from this week. And I look forward to working with you and all my Canadian comrades as we implement new tactics to carry on the best of the traditions passed to us by our fathers and our grandmothers. And for all the ways the Teamsters has changed in the last few years, for all our efforts to preserve what has worked and incorporate new ideas, we have never lost the heart of what being a Teamster is, and we never will. What lies at the heart of the Teamsters is our unity, our strength, our pride, and our toughness. No one can ever take that from us. And brothers and sisters, as long as we don't lose that, there will never be a war we can't win. Thank you very much.